Nightline. I'm Pastor Benny, and thank you so much for joining us on this day here in April. And it's our prayer that God has richly blessed you. Listen, you're going to enjoy so very much our guest tonight because I'm here in Greenville, South Carolina. Our guest is Naomi Nussbaum, and she happens to be right now as we're speaking in Tel Aviv, Israel. And we're going to be talking with her tonight about OneFamily. She's executive director there. And as I was learning and got my notes the other day and learning more about her organization, about her, this is fascinating, ladies and gentlemen. You want to watch this tonight because to understand what's happening, we know that there is turmoil always in the Middle East. Jesus himself said there would be wars and rumors of wars. But tonight you're going to hear from this dear lady. And so, well, I'll tell you what. Well, let me read our scripture from Isaiah 41, and then Miss Naomi Nussbaum will be with us. Scripture says, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be afraid, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will hold on to you with my righteous right hand." May God bless the reading of his holy word. Would you join with me now in welcoming to Nightline Miss Naomi Nussbaum. Naomi, we welcome you all the way from Tel Aviv to Greenville, South Carolina. Thank you so much for being our guest tonight. OneFamily Executive Director. Now, this is your first time to be with us here on Nightline, right?
Yes.
And
thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Well, no, it is our honor, particularly when I see the great work that you folks are doing. Our folks are going to want to know, first of all, who is Naomi Nussbaum? Would you tell our folks, give us a little background on who you might be, please, ma'am?
Sure. Naomi Nussbaum, born and raised in New York. I currently live in New Jersey, outside of Manhattan. I am blessed with 3 children who are a little bit older now. The youngest one's in high school. I have 2 in college. I'm divorced. I was formerly a teacher. That's my background.
Okay.
I have a master's in early childhood special education from Teachers College. And that's where we learned that every single individual is different. Their brains are different, we're wired differently, and education has to be individualized,
Yes.
especially when kids are little, right? They're all individuals. Everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. We want to strengthen the strengths and strengthen the weaknesses, each one with their own individual plan, the way they learn best. And 5.5 years ago, when I transitioned into nonprofit and into helping people with trauma, that's when I realized that people heal from trauma differently, each one individually, different strengths and weaknesses, and different therapies will work best for different individuals, right? It makes perfect sense. So the attention to detail and personality, and really the individual, right, is what makes it or breaks it.
Right, right. And so are you in between, between the States and Israel? Do you fly back and forth, or are you there so many days or months or weeks of the year? How does that work for you?
I run the US office, so I'm mostly in the United States. I fly to Israel a couple of times a year to join the programming, to meet the victims, to interact with everybody, have meetings. This week, I'm joining a 3-day retreat for bereaved parents.
Oh, my.
Right? And that's deliberately scheduled in advance of the National Memorial Day called Yom HaZikaron, which is coming up next week, right? So if you can kind of imagine, right? And none of us should know firsthand, right? No, everybody should be safe and healthy and live till 120. But right, that's what we say.
That's
Everybody should
right, sure.
have a long, healthy, happy life, prosperous. So these parents have unfortunately, tragically lost a child. And because these people, it's fresh, right? It's really fresh and it's traumatic and they're overcome with grief. Sometimes the anxiety and the trauma builds in advance of the National Memorial Day. So we deliberately plan retreats now, right before, to help teach tools to cope with the grief
Right.
and teach a little bit of resilience, and just to let them know that we're here, we're with them every step of the way, give them some love and pampering and get them out of their house.
Right.
So that's why I'm here this week. I'm here to join that retreat, to hold those people's hands, and then to attend the Yom HaZikaron ceremony in solidarity.
And how these children, how were they killed? Were they victims of October 7th? Were victims of bombing, Hamas terrorists? I'm not. What?
Okay.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so some parents had their children murdered on October 7th. Others had their children murdered in the IDF, the Israeli
Right.
army defending
The
the
police.
land and the people. So they were all killed in an act of terror. Nobody died in a car accident. Nobody died from cancer. They all died at the hands of a terrorist, right? Whether it
Right.
was a rocket or a gun or someone's hands, they were all murdered by terrorists, basically. So we're here for those parents and the bereaved siblings, the children who lost both parents. These people need a lot of extra hand holding and hugs and pampering.
And you know, Naomi, here we hear that in the States, but most people here have never even begun to experience the terror and the horror of our folks, our brothers and sisters, our Jewish brothers and sisters face there in Israel. And now you are executive director of OneFamily. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Tell
Yes.
us about OneFamily. I know the seed was planted by a young little girl, Michael
That's
Belsberg,
a tricky one. Yes,
and
Michal Blomberg. It's tricky
back
for
in
Americans.
September 2000, she was getting ready for her bat mitzvah. Tell us, out of that terror attack, how OneFamily's come about. Fascinating.
Yeah, so the Bellsberg family, they were happy, lots of children, successful and grateful for their life. And then by coincidence, the most deadly terror attack of that time, of the Second Intifada, happened on the day of one of their daughter's 12th birthday. And that's the day that we have the bat mitzvah ceremony,
Right,
right, in Judaism.
right.
So because it was like August and the bat mitzvah was planned a few weeks later, all of Michal's friends were away for summer break. So the party, even though that was the actual day, the party was planned for a little bit later when all of her friends would be back. But the country was devastated by so much death and destruction, right? The Sparrow Pizzeria was a family restaurant in downtown Jerusalem, like in the heart of the city, and it was packed with people on summer vacation. It was children, teenagers, young adults, it was parents and children, lots of kids, right? And
Yes.
lots of young people. So there were 15 deaths and eventually a 16th, and over 100 people were wounded, maybe 115 or more people were wounded. So the Bellsberg family decided to cancel the party, take the money, and they had Michal as a bat mitzvah project, essentially go and visit all of the survivors in the hospital and go
Yes.
and visit. When there's a death in a Jewish family, we sit Shiva. That's what it's called. Like for a week, everybody comes to the
Yes.
house, right? So Michal made Shiva visits to all of these strangers just to offer support and love and ask what she could do to help. And the same with the people in the hospital. What can she do to help? And she had that money from the canceled party, and they asked their guests and their family if they wanted to please make a donation, and Michal would use the money to help the people. So one example just stays in my heart forever because
Yes.
it's so striking. She visited a mother who survived, but she was with her baby in the restaurant at the time. And the baby was fine. The mother was recovering in the hospital, and Michal said, "What can I do for you?" And she said, "Please, my stroller is soaked with blood stains. I can't look, right? Like, please, may I have a new stroller?" you know? So it was just something super practical, but she couldn't get out of bed. So Michal went to 3 different stores to find a pink stroller at that
Oh
time,
my.
right? Before Amazon existed,
Yeah.
before you could have anything delivered, you
Yeah.
had to actually go to the store. And that's what she did. And everybody needed something different. There were 2 little girls who were orphaned. Both of
Mm.
their parents and 3 older siblings died. And Michal bought each of those girls a golden heart locket necklace
Mm-hmm.
that they would literally remember that the Bellsbergs love them and they will be their new family and they're going to help them, that they should never feel alone in the world, right?
Right.
So very symbolic because you can't really buy anything to help somebody who just had their whole family murdered.
Right.
Um, but they did as much as they could. So that was the beginning. They very quickly realized that nobody else was really taking care of the victims. There were no charities in that space at that time. There's a small amount of like social services that people are entitled to, but that's really it. And it's not necessarily enough. Uh, so the Bellsbergs started helping. They realized they didn't have enough and they needed more. And on top of that, 2 weeks later, another bus was blown up
Mm.
and there were many more victims. So that's when they realized this was going to be their life's work. And they turned this into a formal charity. And now this is, a large, well-established,
Yes.
well-run charity taking care of terror victims for 24 years. We provide emotional, financial, and legal support for everybody hurt by terror in the state of Israel,
Mm.
of all religions, all backgrounds, all ages, gender, race, you name it. If terror has affected you, we are here for you
Right.
for life, as
And,
long as you need services. Yeah.
and you know, when we're talking, once again, as I said earlier, those folks, those of us in the States, we really can't wrap our minds around terror. Okay, we watch the television. We watched the horrific mini Holocaust of October 7th. We saw that. And we know that Hamas are terrorists. We know Iran and some of the other countries are sponsoring that. And yet we know, okay, we know what's on paper. We know what's on the TV screen. But to
Yeah.
actually experience it, like yourself, you've been there. You've held the hand of someone who's lost a child, who lost a teenager. I mean, the work you do is incredible, and I wish you didn't have to do it. I wish there wasn't a one family, but the fact of the matter is, you're going to have to stay strong, particularly in the years to come.
I know, I know. So that's heartbreaking. We joke, but it's not a joke. We
No,
can't wait to go out of business,
right,
right? We can't wait till we're no longer needed and we can close our doors.
right.
And tragically, the amount of people that we have to help literally tripled on October 7th.
Oh, I can't
As
imagine.
as compared to everybody combined, like all the murders in
Mm,
23 years,
mm, mm,
right? There
mm.
was nearly the same amount of murders from terror on that one day.
Yeah,
Now, with the ongoing war and losses in the army, and still there are terror attacks in Israel. I don't know how
yes,
much publicity they get, but yes, there have been ongoing terror attacks throughout Israel the whole time as well. So it's tragic, but there are more and more people who need our services. And I'll add to that, they need our services more than they have ever needed. Like it's a much more desperate situation because so many people lost their homes. It's not that one person from the family was murdered at a bus
right,
stop, which is tragic in and of
right,
itself. Right?
right.
But if you think about some of the people who were affected on October 7th, there's a boy who's very close to my heart now. Both of his parents, his younger brother, his dog were all murdered, and the house was burned, flattened. Everything
Yeah,
valuable was stolen. He has no possessions, and it was just by luck that he went away that Sabbath. He wasn't at home, and that's the only reason why he's alive. So the devastation of not just losing one member, but like losing all the members, losing houses, farms, industries. People lost
Yeah.
entire factories, entire neighborhoods, the kibbutzim, right? So if your entire home and way of life was destroyed all in one day, that's an enormous thing to try to wrap your head around.
It is.
And yes, most Americans can't
No.
imagine that.
No.
And that's why I can tell you that it really has changed my life and the way I view everything
And,
as an American.
and having been in the States, we unfortunately have some very, very misguided students in universities, basically in the north of our country, who do not know any better, who have been brainwashed by
Yeah.
terrorist professors, and
Yep.
we are ashamed of that here in the United States of America. I personally am offended as a Christian, and we know that Jesus told us, as we said at the very onset, Jesus told us there would be wars and there would be rumors of wars, particularly in the world, but in particularly your homeland, his homeland. And I wish, oh my, but I salute you and I thank you. We're talking today with Miss Naomi Nussbaum. She is the Executive Director of OneFamily, and she, as we talk right now, she is in Israel. We're going to be right back to her in just a moment. But Lisa Pruitt from Pastor Benny Presents sings This Blood. All right, Lisa, come on, lead us now.
There is a blood that cost a life, that paid my way, death its price. When it flowed down from the cross, my sins were gone, my sins forgot. There is a grave that tried to hide this precious blood that gave me life. But in 3 days, he breathed again and rose to stand in my defense. So I come to tell you he's alive, to tell you that he dries every tear that falls. So I come to tell you that he saves, to shout and to proclaim that he's coming back for you. There is a blood that sights the blind, it heals the sick, the lonely finds. It has the power to free the bound as chains they fall upon the ground. So pour it out to cleanse my soul, and let its precious, precious glory flow, because it lives to make me whole. I owe my life, I owe my own. So I come to tell you he's alive, to tell you that he dries every tear that falls. So I come to tell you away my sins. Nothing, nothing. What can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood. Nothing but the blood. There's a grave that tried to hide this precious blood that gave me life. But in 3 days, he breathed again and rose to stand in my defense. Oh, I come to tell you he's alive, to tell you that he dries every tear that falls. So I come to tell you that he saves, to shout and to proclaim that he's coming back for you. So I come to tell you he's alive.
Lisa Pruitt, how I love that girl, and all the folks that Pastor Benny presents, talking tonight to Naomi Nussbaum, and just so fascinating. You understand, I'm telling our viewers, that that Judaism is the parents of Christianity. And so we're talking tonight to this dear lady, Ms. Nussbaum, Naomi. You were sharing with me, there were a couple of stories that you wanted to share. I think that would be helpful for our viewers to hear. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. As an American, it was even hard for me to fully understand what was going on in Israel, and I do this for a living. And last year, I came the first week of July to Israel, and I went with my organization to visit soldiers and wounded people in the hospital, and I saw severe wounds. And we go and we bring fruit shakes and smoothies and smiles, and we help the families any way we can. We get to know them. I made home visits to people who lost one or more than one relative on October 7th. I went to the Nova Music Festival. So I went all around. I went to some programs and I met a lot of people and I spoke to them. Right after that visit, I came back to America. I went out for my morning run and I was hit by a car when I was walking across a street in the crosswalk with the light. Somebody wasn't paying attention. She was looking in a different direction and drove right into me. And I had so many injuries. You'd be impressed that I'm sitting up right now if you knew my laundry list of injuries. And that's when it really, part of what's going on here became clear, right? I was in pain every day. I couldn't walk. I couldn't get out of bed. I went from being a young, healthy, strong runner to somebody who needed 2 adults to get me to the bathroom and back, right? Which is shocking, and it changed my whole life. Here's the difference. When somebody's in a terror attack, it's intentional. When I got hit by a car, even though that woman, when I was in it, when I was really in the pain and all the MRIs and the tears and in it.
Yes.
I was miserable and I felt like it ruined my life, and I couldn't go to the office and I couldn't go food shopping and I couldn't take care of my daughter, right? So I felt as though my life was ruined. At the same time, I was living in a lovely home in a comfortable bed and I can have food delivered. And the difference between terror and what happened to me is that it's very intentional. So if you live, you know that somebody meant to kill you or kill your relatives or all of you. Somebody meant to steal your belongings. Somebody meant to destroy your house. Someone meant to inflict as much pain as possible. And they will come back and do it again
Yes.
because the job isn't finished. And if your perpetrator was caught and put in prison, maybe that person is going to be released in a future hostage deal. And if that person was killed, somebody else will replace him overnight. So it's the feeling that you're never safe wherever you go. So I felt like my life was ruined, but it was temporary, and I was in my cozy home and I still had food, right? And
Right.
I'm still recovering from it. But there are people who literally lost their families and their home and every single possession and their entire community and their job. And um, and somebody videotaped it and partied in the street over the pain inflicted, and they will come back and do it again.
Right.
And Hamas has said that they will keep planning terror attacks until we're all wiped out, until they, from the river to the sea. That's
Right.
their motto.
Yes.
And Iran is backing them. And it's more than just Hamas, it's the Houthis
Yes.
and Hezbollah, right? There are many groups who want us dead. They're all working together and they're going to keep coming back. In addition to the personal terror attacks, you probably have neighbors who are losing their sons, or friends who have lost their siblings or their cousins, or the person across the street. It's like death on top of death
Yes.
on top of death. They're surrounded by it. I can't tell you how large the percentage in the country is of people who are sitting Shiva this year, right? Not just the 1 week, but like the 1
Right.
year of mourning.
Right.
It's an enormous percentage of the population that has sat Shiva since October 7th. So it's compounded. It's not healing. It's like an open wound that's getting worse with every death.
Let me
So-
may I ask you, Naomi, how are the people responding? How do they respond when they see such negative response from these student populations? How do the people of Israel perceive that? And particularly the folks who are part of this one family, what is their response?
Are you talking about the Ivy League schools in America?
Yes, I am. Poison ivy, please.
Poison ivy, absolutely. So, I went to Columbia and I won't wear their sweatshirt in public
No,
ever
no.
again. It's disgusting.
No.
How is it perceived? I would say that in Israel, they know that the world is not with them. It's almost like gaslighting on a national level, that Israel was blamed for the war following October 7th, instead of the world being outraged that citizens sleeping in their bed
Right.
were raped, gang raped, murdered, beheaded, burned alive, taken hostage, and possessed, homes and villages destroyed, and the world blamed. So it's, the schools, which are toxic, and they're going to put those toxic students in leadership positions
Right.
in 5, 10, 15 years, which is frightening.
Yes.
But more so right now that terrorists around the world have been planning terrorist attacks. People outside of Israel sometimes think it's just a one-off, right? But there was something in Louisiana, like a Christmas market, and something in Germany, and something in Amsterdam, right? Do you remember Amsterdam?
Yes.
All of the Uber drivers were compiling where the Jews were staying. Wherever they dropped off Jews, they were all keeping track.
Yes.
So if you can't go to a street fair or a football game or a Christmas market or get dropped off by Uber and be safe, this is a worldwide problem. And the poison ivy schools growing young leadership with that mentality is absolutely frightening.
Yes, yes, and you know, we continue here shaking our heads in disgust. When we going back to the One Family, for example, on that day, October 7th,
Yeah.
how horrific it was early morning. How long was it before One Family organization responded? Give our
That
people
night.
that night.
So that night, we already had established a 24-hour emergency hotline. We had about 20 people sitting around our conference table, all WhatsApping each other how to solve the problems that were coming in, right? So obviously people needed food. We had volunteers come, they baked and baked and baked as much as they could. We had more volunteers packaging it up and more volunteers delivering food, water, and basic necessities to every part of the country. Around the Gaza envelope, there were no stores, there were no supplies,
Right.
like everything was destroyed, right? So people needed food and water and blankets and toothbrushes, and we sent it there. People were evacuated to hotels, and we took cars and cars and cars overflowing with boxes of supplies directly there to help them. And then we fielded calls like, my entire community was evacuated. They all got a phone call with a reservation, and my phone never rang. And I've been calling the office for 2 days, but it's busy and nobody ever picks up. I need help, right? And then we had volunteers taking people to their homes, to spare bedrooms. We had to help somebody. She lived right on the other line, right? Everybody up to her house was evacuated. From her house on, they're not going to be evacuated. But this woman had 6 children, 3 of whom had autism. And they
Oh
only had
my.
15 seconds to run to the bomb shelter. And she couldn't catch all of her children to move them that quickly. And the noise from the sirens was traumatic for the kids who didn't understand, right? So how do you relocate a family with 6 children
Ah.
overnight, get them out of there?
And
Um, mhm.
and you know, for us, I mean, it was October 7th, and I want our viewers to understand this. It is fair to call that a mini Holocaust
Absolutely.
compared to what happened in the 40s with Hitler and the Nazis. This was
Yeah.
horrific. And now, for example, where you are, could at any moment, could you hear a siren go off? Could missiles come in even as we're talking? That's a possibility.
Absolutely. I'm in Tel Aviv. My cousin is nice enough to have me stay with her, and yes, they get missile sirens. They get red alerts sometimes here in Tel Aviv, and then you have to go to the safe room.
Yeah.
And my cousin, and that's the difference between us. I have a very safe commute to my office. She is always thinking, when she drives to work and from work, if the siren goes off, where would I go right now? She's on the highway or
Right.
she's on a side street. She's not in her home where there's a bomb shelter. Where would she go? Always thinking, where would I go? Where would I go? Where would I go? Her brain never stops. And she's always observing the people on the street. She's always observing to see if something looks out of place. And I think that's a typical Israeli mentality. On the one hand, they don't stop. They're going to work, they're going out to have a drink with a friend. They go to the supermarket, they go to the store just like everybody else. So they won't stop their life, but also they're not free to completely relax either.
Right. And
You never,
so you folks, for example, One Family, you are always at the ready. Fair to say, always at the ready.
I would say that is accurate. I would say that we have coordinators with hearts of gold.
Yes.
And after October 7th, they gave up their day off. In Israel, the work week is Sunday to Thursday. They gave up their Fridays off to, bake challah and go visit the wounded people in the hospitals all day. The founders, the Bellsbergs, Mark and Chantal, hearts of gold. They are
Recording
angels.
stopped.
They don't sleep. They
Yeah.
literally don't sleep. I was texting with Chantal all night. Well, I flew here, right? So I had to
Right.
be awake. I don't know
Right.
why she was sleeping, but that's typical. She is always awake. She is always working. She spent Passover with bereaved people who can't stay in their house, who can't look at the empty chair. So she planned a retreat, and we put families together who are all in similar situations, with inspirational leadership and entertainment and presence, make them feel good, give them sharing circles, and people can cry on the holiday.
Sure.
The holiday is supposed to be for joy,
Sure.
but these people have to feel comfortable crying, and everybody understands why they're crying, and nobody tells them to stop, and they don't have to be fake and put on a smile.
Sure.
And Chantal does this 24 hours a day. It's really amazing to see.
And in a moment, we get just a couple of minutes more, we're going to go back to a song. But could you tell me, what is the biggest challenge you face today? The biggest challenge? That's a loaded question, I know. But your greatest or biggest challenge?
PTSD is insidious. They finally figured out that PTSD from a terrorist attack is far more insidious and harder to cure than other forms of PTSD.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Like my mild case of PTSD that I don't like crossing streets and I'm always looking over my shoulder is nothing compared to people who think someone's going to murder them in their bed and they're not safe at home. Right? I have it for 2 seconds in an intersection.
Right.
You might have it all day long, every day, or every time they try to sleep. So PTSD, people don't understand how toxic that is and how that can ruin your whole life, and how much help and support people with PTSD need. That doesn't get enough attention yet.
Right.
And I think also Americans don't understand that when the headlines fade, that's just when the work begins. That's not time to forget what happened. Sometimes I have interviews with journalists or reporters who will say, okay, October 7th was a year ago. Are things better now? What are your success stories? And we're like, whoa, you're mistaken. You don't just get over having a child murdered or a spouse murdered because it's a year later. It gets harder. So our challenge is that we have to triple in size. That means raising triple the amount of money, hiring triple the amount of staff, and doing triple the amount of work for triple the amount of time, right? To help all of the new victims from October 7th who are just in so much pain across every facet of their life. And we have to be there for them. So that's the hardest thing. And we do it every day.
And again, for us to think that they're small children, 2 and 3 and 4, who were orphaned because their parents were snuffed out in a terror attack.
And I want to say something right there.
Please.
The psychological torture that took place on October 7th, Hamas deliberately murdered parents violently and brutally in front of young children and let the children live, knowing full well that those children might not ever be okay because of what they witnessed.
Right.
And we're taking care of a family. There was a 4-year-old and a 6-month-old, right? This story is just in my mind, where the mother was brutally gang raped. And the 4-year-old was shot in the foot so that he would live, but he couldn't run away and he had to watch. And then they chopped her body and burned it in front of these babies, right? And her husband wasn't home. And their house is destroyed, right? So now they have no possessions, no community to go back to because the whole community was destroyed.
Right.
And it's the 3 of them collectively trying to heal. And how do you do that? How do you heal the father fast enough to help him help the children? How do you explain to a 4-year-old what happened to his mother in front of his eyes?
Right. And again, this is what One Family is all about. And as horrific as that is and heinous as that is, you're able to respond to a father. You're able to respond to a 4 or 5-year-old who witnessed mama getting beat up and killed and murdered. The 6-month-old won't know, but the 4-year-old, my goodness.
Right.
Your work, you know, your work is never going to end until, as Christians, as we say, the Lord Jesus returns. I
Right.
mean, and I guess I don't mean resigned to that in a negative way, but you have to be resigned to that, hey, this is who we are, this is who I am, and this is the way it's going to be until peace comes into the world. And
Yeah, well, we can't stop evil because evil exists in the
right,
world, but we can make the deliberate choice
right,
to make good decisions and help people recover. And it's like bringing up the rear. As a Jewish person who was a special ed teacher, right? The rabbis taught me that
right,
if if I have a choice of working with a gifted student or a delayed student who both fall in, who need special attention, right? My obligation as a Jew is to go with the child who has special needs, because if the gifted person doesn't get more, he'll still be okay. But
right,
if the one below, you have to bring him up higher so that he'll be okay.
right,
This is the deliberate choice to kind of bring up the rear, to make the weakest part of society stronger, and so that nobody feels alone and terrified and sinks deeper into like that pit of despair from grief and overwhelm.
right.
We can stop people from unnecessary suffering. We can't stop the suffering that terrorists commit. We can make it better. And I'll tell you, the Bellsbergs are active, not within the nonprofit, but they have children fighting in the IDF, literally to keep us safe. They have political friends. They have some influence to try to keep Israel safe. So they're not taking it lying down. They go to the government, they go to the Knesset, they advocate for victims on a legal level to get them as much as we can. They're comprehensively doing everything they can to do as much good for the situation as they possibly can.
Yeah, yeah. And again, you said it so well. We think, well, October 7th, 2023, that is an event that has now passed. And y'all
Yeah.
should be 100%, everybody's over it, you're back to normality. Will there ever be a normality in Israel after October 7th?
The war hasn't stopped yet.
No,
It's
no,
like can't operate on a patient who is still being hurt.
no.
Like if the wound is actively being ripped open, you can't fix it yet.
Right.
We need to calm the Middle East first,
Right.
and then we can work on repairing the collective trauma that the entire state is suffering from right now. And they really are suffering more and more. And the National Day of Mourning, which is Yom HaZikaron, is approaching. So it's very much in everybody's heart and on everyone's mind. This week especially, but every day since October 7th.
And with all of that forthcoming, I mean, we in the States, Christian people in particular, pray pointedly. They pray pointedly for the Jewish people. We love the Jewish people. We love Israel, as at least you need to know in the South, and people who understand God's way, God's word. We're getting ready to go to another song, then we're going to be back with Naomi. But right now, Lisa Pruitt from Pastor Benny Presents sings, "It Is Well." Come on, Lisa.
No grandeur earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice, and seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken from my regard. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And it is well with me. Far be it from me to not believe, even when my eyes can't see. And this mountain that's in front of me will be thrown into the midst of the sea. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, it is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And it is well. It is well. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. So let go, my soul, and trust in Him. The waves and wind still know His name. The waves and wind still know His name. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. 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 It is well. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. It is well. It is well with my soul. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And through it all, this is well. And through it all, my eyes are on you. And it is well with me.
Thank you, Lisa. We're talking tonight to Naomi Nussbaum of OneFamily. And, you know, I want our folks to see how they can contribute to your organization. But would you tell us just a moment? I'm going to put that up on the screen, but would you just speak to that, please? Beautiful picture
Sure.
there.
So our website is onefamilyfundus.org, and we provide emotional, financial, and legal support to Israel's terror victims. We have a multi-pronged approach, right? Some people need the financial assistance so that they're not worried about going to work and making money while they're also grieving. And also, like for the family that we were discussing before,
Yes.
where the father who lost the love of his life, and then the children who lost their mother and witnessed a heinous crime, right? So the father needs counseling with other fathers who have lost their wives. The children need to be in play therapy with a psychiatrist or psychologist, right? And then they need to be with other kids who have also lost parents in our youth division. And then they probably need family therapy together. And this is just, this would be for any family. We acknowledge that there's different relationships. It's
Right.
not one type of therapy that they need. It's multidimensional therapy. So we have to get all the different connections that have been broken and strengthen them. We have to teach the tools of coping with grief. We have to teach
Right.
resilience so that they can go forward. And we have to give them friends who are in similar situations so that they feel normal and not abnormal, right? We don't want that spiral thinking that nobody understands them and nobody knows what's going on inside. Sometimes that makes it worse. So we give them traditional therapy. We have support groups with other people so that they're in a social setting with people similar to them.
Right.
We have retreats outside of Israel and within Israel with other people where they're taken away from their homes and pampered and taught more psychological tools of resilience. And the support groups at home. We have day trips, just like one day fun days for
Right.
families
Right.
together, right? Where they're having some kind of experience that they wouldn't be able to do on their own. They're with other people and they're with a psychologist or a trauma-informed therapist who's leading the group. So they're having maybe a physical challenge or a lot of fun in a social experience. It brings everybody together. And bringing people together is like creating new family. We're called one family very deliberately,
Yes.
right? Because victims become family to one another.
Yes. Yes.
Between group sessions, if someone's having a down day, they know exactly who they can call and they lift one another, you
Right.
know, in between.
Right.
And then they know that they can always call their counselors and they know that they can always call their psychologist. And there's always somebody for them to call. And then another layer are the amazing supporters who can't be in Israel maybe, but they really want to send their love and send their gifts and help these people come out of it. And that kind of overcomes the like the world anti-Semitism that we were
Right.
talking about
Right.
earlier.
Right.
There's random haters out there who want to take down all of Israel and every single Jew just because we're Jewish, right?
Right. Right. They do.
Our supporter base is like random people showering terror victims with love from all the different countries around the world, all different religions. And that's another layer of family too. And there is something so special and wonderful and healing about that kind of family member that says, I don't even know you, but I love you and I'm with you on this horrible journey. We're in this together.
Right. You know, tonight we've been talking to Naomi Nussbaum, and I'm telling you, I have been the sponge tonight, soaking up what they've been talking about and sharing. You have listened here in our upstate area and where you'll view Nightline around the country, and you've been challenged to pray continually for the people of Israel, to pray for these who were part of this horrific attack by Hamas on October the 7th. Many have called in tonight with your prayer requests, and I'm going to go to the Lord in prayer right now, and I'm going to ask Naomi to Pray with me for just a brief moment. Loving Father, every need that's before you, here and in Tel Aviv, around the world, you know. You're the loving God. Your word says, I am the God that healeth thee. And I pray, Lord, that the healing will take place in this country, the healing in Israel. I pray for every victim. Lord, may they know they are loved and cared for. In Jesus' name, amen. You've been listening to Nightline tonight, and Naomi Nussbaum from OneFamily. She's been with us from Tel Aviv. I want to thank you, Naomi, and all of your workers there. I want to thank our viewers for tuning in. I want to thank Lisa Pruitt for the job she did for singing tonight from all of us here at Channel 16. It's our prayer that God has richly blessed you. And so until Sunday, when I have a chance to see you, I'm Pastor Benny. Bye-bye now.